a beloved mother of 4 and high school teacher.
All of her students loved her, every single one of them.
Was a very special person. I always wanted to be more like her.
Is found murdered, her body dumped miles from home.
As I got closer, you could see the outline of the body.
I've seen quite a few homicides, and this one was very brutal. It felt very personal.
Investigators try to piece together a mysterious crime.
Law enforcement believed there was a violent struggle within the bedroom.
He said that he did not hear this vicious attack that was taking place within feet of where he was sleeping.
How could you not hear what was going on?
Until the case takes a jaw-dropping turn.
He was crying, he was emotional, and said that he had a gun to his head.
And leads to a killer no one suspected.
I can't even fathom what goes through someone's mind when they do something like this.
It was disturbing, very disturbing.
Olney, Texas, a tiny rural town with a proud history in aviation.
Olney, Texas was the home of Air Tractor, crop dusting aircraft. They built them there.
It's a very small town, very close-knit. Pretty much everybody knows everyone.
It's an open-door community. Doors are unlocked. People are very welcoming.
On a warm summer morning in 2019, a terrible discovery shakes residents to their core.
The Young County Sheriff's Office received a call of a missing person, and the Olney Police Department was dispatched to the call.
Just before 10 a.m., officers arrived to find homeowner Peter Allen and his 2 children, Kiara and Darian. Peter tells police he's worried something terrible has happened to his wife, 49-year-old high school teacher, Manu Allen.
Peter told me that his wife was missing and that he had found a large amount of blood in their bedroom. And Peter told me that his wife's vehicle was gone.
Investigators head to the bedroom and are shocked at what they find.
As I got to the hallway, we started seeing signs of blood on the walls, most notably what looked like a handprint. And as we started going into the bedroom, we noticed there was a large pool of blood at the end of the bed and the knife on the floor. One of the things that we also noted in the bedroom is that there were no sheets on the bed, which seemed odd. There was blood splattered across the furniture, the mattress, the closet doors. And as we proceeded into the garage, we could clearly see drag marks. As we were in the kitchen, we did see what appeared to be a footprint. A picture started to develop that something very bad had happened.
As forensics begin processing the scene, police notify the DA's office.
My assistant district attorney, Philip Gregory, and I went out to the crime scene.
The carpets were pretty much soaked in blood. There was a lot of cast-off blood on the walls and on the doors, and it was a horrific scene to see. With that amount of blood, we were concerned that you're probably dealing with somebody who is deceased if they had not already made it to a hospital.
With no sign of the missing woman, investigators asked the family for more information about Manu Allen.
My mom was from a little village in southern Germany. She had 8 siblings. In the middle of my mom's college career, she came over to America to learn the language better. And my dad had seen her walk by, and my dad was like, "Ooh, who's that?" And while she was in America that summer, they spent like every day together.
Manu married U.S. Army veteran Peter Allen in 1996, and soon after, the couple moved to Crowell, Texas.
I came to know Peter and Manu when I was appointed police chief in Crowell, Texas, and Peter and I became good friends, and there was never no doubt that Peter and Manu loved each other very much.
Manu and Peter eventually settled in the small town of Olney with their 4 children.
My mom was a very supportive woman, but she was always pushing us to do our best.
Manu was one of the most respected teachers at Olney High School, teaching English and German.
All of her students loved her, every single one of them. And my mom should always be one to joke with the kids. Even my friends, she would help them if they needed help with their homework after school.
Now, the loving wife and mother has gone missing. Police asked Peter Allen the last time he saw Manu.
The night before, he and his wife sat down on the couch, watched TV, and then he went to sleep on the couch and she retired to the bedroom to go to sleep.
Peter claims that no one noticed any sign of trouble until the morning.
According to Mr. Allen, his daughter, Kiara, had woke up. I believe that she needed to get some laundry done. When the laundry room is through the parents' room, she noticed that there was some blood in the hallway area, and concerned about her mother, she went and woke up Mr. Allen on the couch. At that point, according to Mr. Allen went with her to investigate. He said that when he saw the knife, he drew the conclusion that she may have just been injured and cut. But clearly seeing the scene, a cut would not have produced the amount of blood, and it was very apparent that somebody was either severely injured or deceased.
Peter tells officers that he and Kiara went to the local hospital to look for Manu.
It did seem that it was out of place, the way that Peter went to the hospital first before calling law enforcement. There seemed to be a lack of emotion. He was very calm. So I pulled Officer Clark aside and I advised him, I said, we need to be very careful how we talk and handle Mr. Allen because he's potentially involved.
Law enforcement believed there was a violent struggle within the bedroom. Mr. Allen was arguably within feet of the actual act occurring. There were 2 children that were inside the house too, and investigators were concerned that, hey, how could you not hear what was going on?
Peter and his 2 children are brought to the police station for further questioning. Meanwhile, officers are dispatched to nearby parks and wooded areas to look for Manu's car, a white SUV.
In the morning, a neighboring county deputy, Wilk, from Archer County arrived, and he knows the Allens.
My oldest son, Wyatt, she was his teacher, and he thought the world of her. When I came through town on Main Street, I saw crime scene tape up around the Allens' house. And only you don't see crime scene tape up around houses that often.
As a typical law enforcement officer, he says, hey, what can I do to help?
I was asked to go out to Lake Cooper, look for a white SUV. I was given the license plate number, and when I pull into Lake Cooper and I go around to where the boat ramp is, I could see a white SUV on the other side of the lake where the dam is. So I got out, started looking at the vehicle, and activate my body-worn camera, take photos of the car, and I had noticed some brown smears on the car. And I thought, this looks like dried blood. So after I had photographed the car and the area around the car, I started looking around. So I took off walking towards the fence line. I looked to my left and I could see a pile of clothes or blankets. And as I got closer, you could see the kind of the outline of the body wrapped up in these sheets and blankets. I felt the body, it was cold to the touch, rigor had set in. I had my body camera going, and I think on my video camera you can hear me take a deep sigh because I know that the Allens are gonna get notified that their mother has been killed.
We received a phone call from Mr. Wilk.
I got a dead body out here at Lake Cooper.
That he had located the vehicle and a body.
Well, we have a whole crime scene back there at the house.
When we first arrived at the lake, you could see an outline of a white sheet over by the fence line.
Police confirm the deceased woman is Manu Allen.
Miss Allen had been stabbed multiple times, and a lot of stab wounds were to the head. I've seen quite a few homicides, and this one was very brutal due to the amount of violence that was involved and the care taken in the way that she was moved and placed at the lake. It felt very personal. That started leading us to believe that it was somebody that knew her.
Coming up, suspicion falls close to home.
She had picked up the knife that was in the bedroom.
He said he heard something in the middle of the night.
Causing rumors to swirl through a small town.
Everybody knows everybody. A lot of accusations started going around.
I said, I need you to look me in the face and tell me, did you have anything to do with this?
And investigators uncover new clues.
It was a communist block pistol, and it was semi-automatic.
Until a stunning admission leaves a family devastated.
It was just a shock that he confessed.
It was a nightmare.
And located at Lake Cooper, a recreational area a few miles from her home in Olney, Texas.
I'd been to homicide scenes before, but when you find somebody that you knew and your kids knew, when I did go home and told my kids that, hey, I was your teacher that was killed, that was hard.
Olney, Texas is that small community where you don't expect this sort of violence at all. There had not been a murder there in the last 10 years.
As they continue their investigation, detectives examine several items of evidence, trying to piece together what happened.
The vehicle had turned down a little offshoot and was approximately 20 feet from the road, and whoever was driving the vehicle had tried to turn the vehicle around and got high-centered.
Police believe that after the SUV got stuck, Manu's body was removed from the car.
The body was found within sight of the vehicle, and there had been yucca leaves placed around the facial area. If you have a body where the eyes or the face are covered, it typically means that the person who has been involved in the death somehow knew this individual.
When a killer does this type of behavior, it's because they're trying to show some sense of respect to the deceased.
Forensics process the body and collect fingerprint evidence from Manu's vehicle.
There were fingerprints that were located on the car that were in blood. When you find these, it's you can say the golden ticket for law enforcement, because whoever was involved in this left their signature behind.
Another detail in the field grabs detectives' attention.
There was a bicycle track that was leaving from the area of the vehicle onto the main road.
Is it possible the killer had perhaps left on a bicycle?
It being a recreational area, there is the potential that it could have been just a person riding through the area, but you're going to collect as much information as you can.
Investigators catch a break when they find a witness who supports their discovery.
There was an oil field worker that worked on the road that comes right out from the lake heading into Olney. And he happened to see very early in the morning someone on a bicycle wearing dark clothes with a backpack heading towards Olney from the lake area.
While officers are dispatched to track down the cyclist, detectives inform Peter that his wife's body has been found and closely watch his response.
Mr. Allen, his emotional reaction was a little different than what you would expect.
Mr. Allen was extremely detached, emotionless. He said that, he wanted to get justice for Manuela and that he had multiple firearms and a lot of ammunition that he could bring to bear if he did figure out who had done this, and that he was going to do what the military had taught him to do. As a law enforcement officer, I get mixed messages from that. When you start saying that you're going to go after whoever did it, you have to wonder if he's trying to point the investigation in a different direction than on him.
Based on the crime scene, detectives believe that Manu was killed in her bedroom and removed from the home in the early morning hours. They want to know how this could have happened with Peter in the next room.
Mr. Allen said that he had been drinking vodka, and then typically if Mr. Allen had been drinking, he would not sleep in the same bed as Miss Allen.
Mr. Allen said that it was common for him to sleep on the couch because he snored a lot.
Peter claims the only time he woke up was around dawn when he thought he heard his wife's car starting.
He heard it and he didn't think anything of it. Mr. Allen indicated that it's not his job to check on where she's going.
And he apparently went back to sleep.
Police want to know how he heard a car start, but not his wife being attacked just feet away.
Obviously, there was a violent struggle within the bedroom, and Mr. Allen was within shouting distance, hearing distance of the struggle.
Mr. Allen had talked about how the incident may have occurred and that struggles can be silent, and that might be a reason why he didn't hear what had happened.
That's another cause for concern for law enforcement when you've got a suspect with a potential explanation for every possible fact.
Wondering how the killer escaped in Manu's car, investigators ask where she kept her car keys.
Mr. Allen, he indicated that those keys were not kept in the bedroom, they were kept in kind of a common area in the kitchen.
When asked why anyone would want to kill his wife, Peter has a theory.
During the interview with Mr. Allen, he had indicated that it was well known that he had a large gun collection, and he had spoken to a lot of people about it.
Mr. Allen was concerned that someone was breaking into the home to steal his gun collection.
Police are skeptical as they found no signs of forced entry and were not aware of any stolen items.
Well, as a law enforcement officer, I felt that Mr. Allen might be trying to steer the investigation. He had been drinking vodka that day. He was feet away from where the murder had occurred. He was very concerned about things that, in my mind, would not be of importance from somebody that had just lost their wife. So that made him rise to the top as a potential suspect.
Detectives believe that before Manu Allen's body was dumped at a nearby lake, she was stabbed to death in her bedroom while 3 family members were in the house. But her husband Peter insists he detected no sign of trouble.
Peter Allen, Manu's husband, said that he did not hear this vicious attack that was taking place within feet of where he was sleeping on the couch.
Skeptical of Peter's version of events, police want to speak with his children, Darian and Kiara, to see if they witnessed or heard anything. They start with his 15-year-old daughter, Kiara.
She said she was out with her boyfriend and that her father let her in the door around 11:30 that evening.
Her bedroom is where she went, which was right next door to her mother's room. She had put earbuds in her ears and had a phone call with a friend of hers and fell asleep with those in her ears.
Kiara said that she never heard any screams or anything that alerted her that something bad was going on in the home.
Kiara said she woke up that morning and she was trying to get to some clothing that she had washed, and the layout of the house would have required her to go through the master bedroom into the utility room, but the door was locked. And she said, Dad, the door's locked and I'm seeing blood over here. And that woke him up rather quickly. She said he asked her to go around to the other door in the garage and tried to get in, but then when she did, she was met with just, the scene of the blood in the bedroom and everything else.
Kiara did walk through the bedroom and she did touch some items of evidence.
She had picked up the knife that was in the bedroom to examine it. She said that she did not see any blood or anything on it. Of course, picking up any kind of evidence is concerning. It leaves her information on the knife.
Investigators next interview Peter and Manu's 20-year-old son, Darian.
He said that he arrived back at the house at about 11:45 and then just went up to his bedroom. He said, I was playing a video game pretty much the whole night through. So I had my headphones on.
Darian said he had not heard anything other than he heard something in the middle of the night, but he just thought it was his father in the kitchen getting something.
According to Darian, he didn't find that unusual, so turned his attention back to his game.
There were 3 family members that were in the house. It was difficult for me personally to believe that they could not know that something serious is going on in a bedroom that's within 20 feet from you. I can't explain that.
When you have all these people in the home when this occurred, you have to rule them out individually.
Fingerprints and footprints can either rule people out or you can rule somebody in. And unfortunately, it's not like watching a crime TV show where the case is figured out in 15 minutes. It might take months to get returns on some of these items.
Peter and Manu's other children, 21-year-old William and 18-year-old Melanie, arrive at the police station anxious for news about their mother.
They wouldn't let us see my dad. Probably after like 5 hours of waiting, they finally let my dad in, and then my dad told us that they found her body. It was a nightmare.
At the time of the murder, Melanie Allen, the older daughter, was actually at Six Flags that evening, and they never returned home that night. William Allen, the oldest son, was a student at Tarleton State University, and he was in Stephenville the whole time.
Both William and Melanie insist they have no idea who would want their mother dead.
I didn't think anyone would have a single thought about hurting my mom.
You have to talk to the children, naturally, to see if they can give you any idea of other red flags or things that might have been going on in the home.
Investigators were concerned about simmering, unresolved conflict that may have led to a murder. But when the children were interviewed, none of them ever described seeing Mr. and Ms. Allen having any kind of a noteworthy fight.
Police tell the Allen family that they're free to go, but they can't return home until forensics finish processing the house.
The next day, there was a lot of evidence that was collected. The investigators took fingerprints, footprints, in addition to the handprints that were on the wall leading back towards the bedroom.
Detectives zero in on an interesting detail.
It appeared that the perpetrator had left the bedroom and had gone into the kitchen to specifically retrieve something because there were not that many footprints in that kitchen. And the footprints went straight to where the keys to the vehicle were kept.
So whoever had done this knew where they kept the keys.
48 hours into the investigation, the autopsy report provides chilling new insights into Manu's last moments.
The autopsy revealed that Manu Allen had sustained roughly 47 stab wounds, the majority of which were to her head. She did have some defensive wounds on her hands.
However, it wasn't the stab wounds that proved fatal.
She also had suffered strangulation, and a great deal of force had been used, so much so that portions of the neck had been broken.
The autopsy report contains one final insight into the killer's brutality.
They did find a post-mortem gunshot wound in her facial area.
If you look at the totality of what happened with Miss Allen, the stabbings, the choking, and then finally the bullet, we knew we needed to get this suspect.
That in addition to being viciously stabbed and strangled, she was also shot once in the face.
There was a post-mortem gunshot fired at the lake after the body was moved to where her final resting spot was.
There was a bullet casing that was recovered from that particular area, and the actual bullet.
Police bring this new evidence to the crime lab, hoping to identify the gun used to shoot Manu. As people in the town of Olney await news of an arrest, rumors start to fly in the close-knit community.
There's a group on Facebook called Rants and Raves, and you will hear whatever is on somebody's mind about anything that's going on in town. And a lot of people were very hard on the Allen family.
It was really tough waiting for answers because other people in the town all wanted to point fingers at my dad. People looked at him differently. They would look at all of us differently.
Everybody knows everybody. A lot of accusations started going around. A lot of discussion about Mr. Allen's past, his prior military. A lot of people felt that Mr. Allen was potentially involved in the homicide of his wife.
His children stand by him, but some of Peter's friends doubt his innocence.
When I'd heard that Manu had been killed, I'm instantly thinking car wreck or something. So I called Peter's phone. And we hadn't spoken in quite a few years. Melanie answered. And I said, Melanie, what's going on over there? She said, well, Mom's been murdered. So I told her, I said, I'm on the way. I had some concerns about Peter and his military background. Peter, from time to time, drank hard liquor. I'd never seen him violent, but my thought was maybe something had snapped. Maybe there had been infidelity in the family or something. When I got there, I said, Peter, I need to know now. I need you to look me in the face and tell me, did you have anything to do with this? He looked me square in the face, nose to nose, and says, I had nothing to do with this, bro. You know I couldn't do it. And it led me to think, who could have done this? It was disturbing.
Detectives get a fresh lead when they receive new information on the cyclist seen leaving the area where Manu's body was dumped.
The day that the body was found, an oil field worker, around 6 o'clock in the morning, he saw a person headed from Lake Cooper riding back towards Olney on a bicycle. The local bank had security cameras on the outside of it, and a surveillance video showed somebody riding in town on a bicycle, dressed up in shorts with a backpack. The video footage that was received from the bank, it was from a distance, so you were not able to see a face for identification purposes. You could see it was a younger person. It was definitely the person that everybody was wanting to talk to, but we did not know who that person was.
The quest to identify the suspicious cyclist hits a dead end, and pressure continues to mount on the police.
The community's in a lot of pain. We were kind of in a situation where we can say, hey, we're investigating this, we have leads, we're working on them. Please be patient with us.
As police await analysis of the bullet and casing found at Lake Cooper, they call Peter back to the PD and ask him about his gun collection.
Peter Allen had told us that he had weapons and ammunition in the house and that they were stored in his bedroom in a closet.
Peter tells investigators not all of his guns are locked in the safe. He also keeps a loaded pistol in a dresser drawer.
It was a communist block pistol that would have been from like the Soviet Union, and it was semi-automatic.
Police never found this gun when they searched the house. Had the killer stolen it? Or had Peter staged it to look this way?
It felt as if Mr. Allen was trying to lead the investigation. But investigators are naturally going to start looking at other firearm thefts or burglary cases that have occurred in the area.
Investigators look into recent gun thefts around town.
Corey Taylor was a local kid there that had been in trouble, and it was learned that just before the murders had occurred, he had been involved in a burglary that involved firearm theft.
Had Corey entered the house to steal Peter's guns and killed Manu in the process?
Mr. Allen had maybe over 100 firearms in the house, so that became a potential motive for the killing.
So we go to Corey Taylor's house. When I got to his apartment, Corey came to the door and told him that I was there so that he could be interviewed about the murder of Miss Allen. Corey indicated that he did know Miss Allen from school.
Officers asked Corey for his whereabouts the night of the murder.
His alibi was totally void of having any contact with the Allen family residence whatsoever.
As Corey speaks, officers see something suspicious.
I noticed a bicycle, and the tire mark from the bicycle looked very, very similar to the tracks at the lake.
It had the exact tread that was seen out at the lake close to Manu's body and the vehicle.
So a red flag went up there.
Detectives working the homicide of Manu Allen have noticed a suspicious bike in the apartment of 17-year-old Corey Taylor. Could Corey be the cyclist from the surveillance video?
One of our investigators was able to see a bicycle, and he's actually able to take a photograph of the treads on it, and everybody was kind of like, oh, that's probably the bicycle we're looking for. Mr. Taylor denied that it was his, but he indicated that the bicycle was actually owned by a guy named Julius Mullins.
Corey Taylor said that his friend Julius Mullins had dated Manu's daughter, Melanie.
Detectives are curious if Corey is trying to deflect blame. They press Corey for more information about his friend, Julius Mullins.
Julius was a running back for the Alny football team, and so as far as the community, he was known.
Julius Mullins was well-liked by the other team members. He seemed to have some success on the field, but Julius Mullins did not always have the best home life.
Julius didn't have a stable home. I know his relationship with his parents were strained.
He had stayed with Corey Taylor some, as well as the high school gym, because the coaches had allowed him to stay there because he did not always have a place to stay.
Police learned that Julius knew Manu from school and had dated her daughter, Melanie, for a year.
He was a good person. My mom was extremely kind and accepting of Julius. She would help him with his homework. One time, he got kicked out of his house, and she let him even stay the night.
Despite Manu's love and support, Julius's behavior had changed in recent months.
Things just started going downhill. He just started doing worse and worse in school. He started getting in more fights with his parents. Him and I started getting in more fights, and I finally left him probably 6-7 months before what happened.
Police bring Julius in for an interview and notice some alarming details.
Julius Mullins, he had some cuts and scrapes on his arms and legs, which would be consistent with someone who had been out by Lake Cooper. There were a great deal of yucca and cactus plants, and you couldn't have gone through that field without getting scratched up by the shrubbery.
Mullins had indicated that the night of the murder that he had went to a party with several other people. After the party, he said he went to Corey's apartment and crashed for the evening, but he had not seen Corey that night. So the alibi was pretty weak.
Julius Mullins admitted that he owned the bike that was at Corey Taylor's home. The bike places Julius Mullins out at Lake Cooper where the body had been left, because those tire tracks matched that bike perfectly.
So with any murder investigation, the interviewers in these cases are going to press pretty hard to get to the information.
Detectives asked Julius for more details about his alibi and the injuries on his arms and legs.
As they're finding inconsistencies in the stories, they're going to start breaking these stories down and get him to eventually just tell the truth. He was crying, he was emotional, and Mullins finally admitted that he had killed Miss Allen. At that point, Mullins started giving the information that was pertinent and matched what we had found at the scene.
Julius tells police he had gained entry to the Allen home through a faulty garage window.
Mullins accessed the garage and went into the bedroom of Miss Allen. I believe Miss Allen was surprised when Mullins started the assault. He continued to assault her, and she fought for her life. Mullins stabbed her multiple times and then eventually choked her to death. He then took the sheets off the bed, wrapped her up so that he could move her.
Police believe Julius then found Peter's Soviet-made pistol in the dresser drawer and headed to the kitchen to grab Manu's car keys.
He then drug her through the laundry room, through the garage, through the backyard, out to the alley, and loaded Miss Allen into the car. He loaded his bicycle into the car with him, and he drove her to the lake.
Julius planned to hide the body far from the road, but the vehicle got stuck on the rough terrain.
So he put together a hasty plan and pulled her out and drug her to a fence. He then took the gun and fired one shot, hitting her in the face to ensure that she was dead. And then he took his bike and he fled the scene. It was a sigh of relief in some respects that he confessed. Mullins did indicate that he was still in love with Melanie and was upset about that. We asked him why he would want to kill the woman he loves' mother. And Mullins said that he had a gun to his head. According to Mullins, on the evening before the murders had occurred, he said that he had gone to Allsup's and had run into Peter Allen in the store, and Peter had him come outside into Peter's car, and Peter had pulled a gun on him and pressed it to his chest and told him to kill Miss Allen, and that if he did not do it, that his whole family would be killed. He said that was the reason for...
confessed to the murder of Manu Allen, but claims that he was forced into it by her husband, Peter.
Mr. Mullins gave very specific information about them meeting at an Allsup's convenience store, where Mullins said Mr. Allen pretty much just pulled him into his car and said, "Hey, you're going to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to go kill all your family."
When Mullins made these accusations toward Mr. Allen was still a person of interest.
Police try to verify the alleged meeting between Julius and Peter.
We were able to secure the phone records of Julius Mullins back to the day that Mr. Allen supposedly threatened Julius into murdering his wife, and were able to determine that Mr. Mullins' phone was nowhere near that Allsup's location at any time that day.
Police interviewed Julius again to clarify his allegations against Peter. He insists he's telling the truth and provides more shocking details about the murder.
He said that after Miss Allen was dead, that Peter assisted him in wrapping the body and pulling her out to the alleyway and then loaded her into the car.
Detectives receive forensic results and check if Julius's account matches the evidence.
There were some bloody handprints and some fingerprints, and they had footprints that they had sent to the crime lab, and they were eventually identified.
Forensic testing determined 2 people had left footprints in the kitchen. One set was left by Julius.
Julius had been in the home frequently when he was dating Melanie, and the footprints went straight to where the keys to the vehicle were kept in the kitchen, and Julius would know that.
Investigators wonder if the other prints belong to Peter, but the results show otherwise.
Kiara left footprints, but she said that she had stepped in the blood, so that lined up with what she had said had occurred.
The crime lab also determines fingerprints left in Manu's blood in the house and on her car belong to one person.
Sure enough, they belonged to Julius Mullins. We were able to rule Peter Allen out.
The things that Mullins attempted to implicate Peter in, the physical evidence did not support that. The cell phone data did not support that.
The results were confirmation that Mr. Allen had nothing to do with this.
Avery Mark? Manu was my life. She was my soulmate. And I don't think any human being alive could expect for the heart, the soul, the core of the family to be murdered without reason whatsoever. I knew they were going to look at me because I was the husband and I was in the house. When the police made the arrest, there was disbelief. I just didn't think he had it in him to do something like that.
On July 15th, 2019, 18-year-old Julius Mullins is charged with the murder of Manu Allen.
My daughter Melanie dated him, and Julius would come over. My wife was very kind to Julius, but we were both nice to him. I was not worried about Julius at all while they were dating. He seemed more like a pleasant young man.
With Julius in custody, police find Peter's stolen pistol at the home of Corey Taylor.
They did investigate Corey Taylor, but he was ruled out. No fingerprints, no footprints, no DNA, nothing. The sole perpetrator of the crime was Julius Mullins.
Police believe the knife found at the scene may have been dropped by Julius, but forensic analysis found it was not used in the murder.
Staff at the school had found Mullins' backpack with a knife that was eventually determined to have been involved in the murder of Miss Allen.
Tragically, no one in the house heard Julius's vicious attack on Manu.
Kiara put earbuds in her ears and fell asleep with those in her ears. Darian was upstairs playing video games with a headset on, and then Mr. Allen, he had consumed alcohol, and that might have contributed to him sleeping heavier than normal.
Julius Mullins was charged ultimately and pled to murder in the first degree. And he also pled to the abuse of a corpse.
Julius receives a 55-year prison sentence.
I can't even fathom what goes through someone's mind when they do something like this, especially to someone who has been so kind to them.
I was totally shocked that it was a person that had been trusted in their home. It was a person that Manu had assisted with tutoring and personal family issues that were going on with him.
Was robbery the motive? Was revenge the motive? I don't think we'll ever know unless Mullins decides to tell us why he did what he did.
The only thing I can think of is he felt that if he killed Melanie's mother, that it would break her heart. A twisted revenge is the only thing I can think of.
It tore me apart, and my dad was, of course, completely torn apart. You know, they were supposed to spend the rest of their lives together.
I love to smile, I love to laugh, I love to make jokes, but I haven't laughed or smiled like I did with her since it happened. There are generally two types of love. The one type is where you've been with somebody for a very long time, so you got that deep love. And then you got the other kind of love, which is the infatuation type love. And I had both of those for my wife. There is no such thing as moving on from it. I'm making progress, and my kids are making progress.
11.
Exactly.
More like Mud Puddle 3.
They're the most peculiar family I've run across, and I've run across a few.
How one unlikely family trio took the money and drove, and kept driving for 10 full years. Taking banks, the Federal Reserve, even the FBI on a wild goose chase.
But they got away with it.
$4 million snatched from under their noses time after time after time.
It was an inside job, a family job.
A string of robberies.
No high-tech gadgets, just a fake Fidel Castro beard, some sketchy 911 calls, and crazy hiding places for those millions. Cans of Ajax to WD-40 to Aquanet.
It's so weird.
But if they've got a cool $4 million stashed away, why are they living in 900 square feet of this? Tonight, we're tracking them down for answers.
What do you want to know?
The wife who knew more than she said.
You're a tough woman to find. Just a few minutes of your time.
The paratrooper's son with daddy issues. And who's that mystery man on the motorcycle?
He said, what crimes?
In this high-stakes game of Catch Me If You Can, will they turn on each other first?
He's taking all of us down, Dad.
Ooh.
Family business.
Good evening, I'm David Muir.
And I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and right here tonight a caper that gives all new meaning to the term crime family. Not that there are any mobsters involved or anything, just your average, everyday family with one pretty noticeable flaw. They prefer stealing money to actually earning it.
So tonight, right here, we take you inside that outrageous case. 10 years in the making, thousands of hours and miles, all spent chasing down 3 family members who it turns out are hiding in plain sight with an even more bizarre plan for holding on to all those millions. Here's David Wright tonight with a different kind of family business.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a city with a rich beer history, but a place where Archie Cabello has something else brewing.
I think he's a very cunning individual.
General impression of Archie was the guy who showed up on time, went out on route every day, drove his route, but there wasn't a lot memorable about the guy.
In 1995, he's grinding it out as a truck driver, making about $6 an hour. 48 years old with bills to pay, 2 kids and a wife to support. That's her, a chain smoker puffing away. They've been together since she was a teenager.
One thing was really clear, he loves his wife.
Archie also loves money, but he hates to work, according to veteran journalist Brian Denson.
Archie would have been great if he'd just gone to college, if he'd had some means growing up to go to college, because he's a smart guy.
Smart enough to figure out a shortcut to a much more lucrative career path. You see, Archie doesn't just drive any truck. He drives an armored truck stuffed with cash. You've seen them double parked as they deliver their precious cargo to stores, banks, and ATM machines. Cold, hard cash. Easy money, if you can get to it. These things are Fort Knox on wheels. Tell me about Archie.
What do you want to know?
That's FBI Special Agent Ken O'Connor, an expert in armored car robberies, and Archie Cabello.
I was fortunate that I've done cases like this before.
It was his job to piece together the Cabello capers years after the fact. But is this the kind of case everybody else likes to avoid? Kind of a clunker?
For a person that wants to be on that kind of squad, this is not the case they're dying to do. So for me, it was just, all right, let's just get it done.
With his help, we retraced Archie's steps on the day he was due to deliver cash and coin to banks and businesses all over Milwaukee.
The two people he was assigned with were, one had been there on the job for a week, the other had been on the job for 2 weeks, so he was the senior guy.
The inexperience of those co-workers plays a key role here because they take orders from Archie, no questions asked. What they don't know is that somebody else is also watching their armored truck. Every day at a predetermined time, a woman leaves her job at a local cafe, gets into her ordinary car, goes for a drive, and then parks. Every day she watches the armored truck. Once it passes, they go their separate ways. Same routine, day after day after day. But today, it's going to be different. Today, when the armored truck reaches the corner, the truck driver, Archie, hits the hazard lights. And as he turns right, the woman in the car follows him. The truck continues doing its scheduled round of pickups and deliveries, and around midday, it pulls into this strip mall.
They make a stop at First Star National Bank.
Cabello, a former Marine, is armed with a gun that he certainly knows how to use, but he doesn't need to use it. His weapon of choice today, a ballpoint pen.
He's on paperwork showing he signed for the bag at 12:30 p.m. Bag had about $157,800, give or take.
Give or take, Archie will always choose take. Out in a matter of minutes, the crew puts the money safely in the truck. It's now break time.
He ditched the other two people for a break or bathroom break.
All he needs is a few quick minutes alone with his thoughts and all that money. He pulls around back, and there he meets up with the car that's been quietly tracking his every move. Archie takes that bag of cash he's just picked out of First Star Bank and makes a rather unusual deposit.
Her open window onto the passenger side seat, and they both drove off.
Archie loops back around and waits for the crew to come off their break. Once in the truck, the trio resumes their work, none the wiser that their load has been lightened by more than $100,000.
It's cheeky. He's a cheeky guy. But, I think like a lot of folks who make the bulk of their money illegally, Archie decided that he could be cheeky.
Meanwhile, the driver of the car is transferring the cash out of the bank bag and into another carry-on, soon to be stashed away. Obviously, at the end of the day, Archie is going to have some explaining to do.
So he just said, oops.
I got lost in the shuffle somehow.
Pretty big thing to get lost in the shuffle, $157,000?
Exactly.
That's right. When his bosses ask, where's the money? Archie's response is as simple as, I don't know. He gets an unintended assist from his coworkers. The crew isn't saying much either, primarily because they don't know much.
What was the story that they told?
They, of course, denied taking the bag. One of them took a polygraph and passed. The other one didn't take a polygraph. Archie didn't take a polygraph.
Archie's plan has worked to perfection. He got the money, and he got it with guile instead of a gun. His bosses suspect he was involved, but they can't prove it.
How is it that he wasn't busted then? I mean, that's a pretty lame excuse.
At that time, there wasn't a lot of evidence other than his story.
Archie gets fired. losing his $30,000 a year job, but in one day he's taken home 5 times his annual wages, so he'll get over it.
Nobody got charged in that case.
The dirty secret? To some extent, armored car companies expect the occasional big loss. It's part of the cost of doing business.
A situation like that, your insurance company is going to cover the hit.
To Archie's way of thinking, that makes this almost a victimless crime. And when he gets home, he doesn't even have to explain himself to the missus. Turns out the woman in that unmarked car was none other than Marion Cabello, Archie's wife, his partner in crime. Their luck may not last a lifetime, but not to worry. Archie's gotten a taste for the action, and he's just getting started. This family business up and running and about to expand.
Archie said, he goes, I did it once, so I can do it again.
When we come back, a paratrooper drops in to assist Archie in Cabello Caper number 2. A theft that'll vault the family into another tax bracket.
It is one of the most peculiar crimes to come through the courthouse in my years, yeah.
2020 continues with Family Business.
At age 23, Vincent Cabello, Archie's son, is an Army paratrooper stationed at Fort Bragg. But this is nothing compared to the fall from grace he's about to take. After an honorable discharge, Vincent returns home to Wisconsin in 1996. He served his country proud, but could not seem to make his dad proud. So when Archie concocts a plan for father and son to steal money together, Vincent agrees, apparently in a misguided effort to win his father's affection. And Dad dragged him into the family business.
Yes. He, in a weird way, worshipped his father and fell into that life.
But Vincent wasn't some teenager. He was a grown man, just out of the service, right?
It's true, he was. But I think that he struggled to find acceptance from his father.
Archie is not exactly Employee of the Year material after the armored car heist. Prosecutors say he often reverts to self-employed status, selling drugs to earn money. That is, when he's not watching his favorite movie, Thief.
I wear $800 suits. I wear a gold watch. I wear a perfect D, flawless, 3-carat ring. I'm a thief.
But Vincent isn't. He's an American hero.
When Archie told him that he needed Vincent's help to be the inside man for the next job that they would do. Ever after, Vincent was trapped in this cycle.
Archie circles jobs in the newspaper for Vincent to apply for. The focus on banks and casinos and other places with lots of cash on hand. Largely due to his military background, he eventually lands a job at the American Security Corporation, guarding the night vault in the basement of this commercial building. The stage set for Cabello Caper number 2. This time, Archie is the outside man, Vincent the inside man.
The plan they came up with was Archie would stage a robbery. He would act like a robber from beginning to end.
The basement vault can be seen from the street level, and night after night, Archie wanders by, waiting to make eye contact with his son down below. One night in July, they do see things eye to eye. Vincent gives the signal, and the plan goes into motion.
When he got the signal, he went to his car, which was parked in the alley behind the building, and he got in his gear.
The gear includes a disguise, a bushy beard, and a baseball cap worn backwards, yellow-tinted glasses, and a BB gun.
And went into the through the receiving area down a long hallway.
He travels down this back alley and enters through a rear door. It's a long, winding, and unmarked corridor that leads to a doorway with just a small sign of the company inside. Vincent had earlier closed the vault door like he was supposed to, but purposely not spun the dial to lock it.
If he had truly locked it, nobody would have been able to get in, because the way the security was set up was certain people had the first half of the combo on the spin dial, and certain people had the second half, and he only had one half.
The charade begins. Archie yells freeze, and Vincent willingly complies. The two of them performing for the cameras.
They knew about the video surveillance in the vault area. Vincent told his father where it was located.
The FBI says Archie took that video cassette, so there's no surveillance footage of the crime, but they acted it out anyway as a precaution, just in case there were other cameras they didn't know about. So they acted the whole thing out.
From beginning to end, it was literally...
Stick 'em up.
Exactly.
Son is hand and leg cuffed before father makes his way inside the vault, stuffs the money into a bag, and makes his getaway.
It was a lot of money. I was a new detective.
Milwaukee Police Detective Ron Laura was one of the first to respond the next morning when Vincent is found handcuffed near the vault.
He said this subject threatened to blow his head off.
But as he presses Vincent for details, the story doesn't add up.
I was a little skeptical of why he wasn't a little bit more shaken up.
The detective strongly suspects it was an inside job, especially when he sees the getaway route, that winding corridor.
They would have went through this door to the freight elevator to make their way to the first floor to exit the building. Once I found out that the person utilized this hallway to escape, right away I said somebody who had knowledge of the building had to be involved in this.
Police detain Vincent, but he sticks to his story and doesn't crack, like father, like son.
And secrecy was the key to the overall conspiracy. Secrecy and keeping it tight within the family.
Go.
Granted, the Cabello family crimes aren't exactly Ocean's 11.
With $160 million behind this door. Let's get him out. Yeah.
But the money's beginning to add up, and just like the armored car heist, what police suspect and what they can prove turn out to be two different things.
In these cases, they're hard to prove. With Vincent standing to his story, we had no probable cause to arrest him.
In this robbery alone, $730,000 vanished without a trace, and no one was ever charged.
Archie and Vincent took advantage of weak procedures at each of these companies, and they exploited them. And, you know, the money's clearly out there somewhere.
But where'd the money go? It's a question that haunts the FBI, who suspect the Cabellos, but the family seems to be living paycheck to paycheck. 1 year after the robbery, the felonious family pulls up stakes and quietly leaves Milwaukee for Portland, Oregon. So at this point, 2 robberies, almost $1 million, 900,000, give or take?
Yes.
But it's not time for retirement yet. No time for retirement. Coming up, Archie hired again as a security guard. This time with boxes of cash headed to the U.S. Federal Reserve. Caper number 3, set to be his biggest yet. And how much they get away with?
$3 million in cash.
$3 million.
Yes.
So why are they living here? When we return.
Family Business continues on 2020.
By the time the Cabellos arrive in the Pacific Northwest in 1999, they've moved 21 times in 18 years. In Archie's line of work, it can be dangerous to grow roots.
Not necessarily the police who were after them, but people that Archie Cabello owed money to or had stolen from.
He was just looking to ride it out as long as he could, so he didn't have to work.
And ride it out they do in Northeast Portland in this modest $975 a month rental.
They'd never been prosecuted in Wisconsin. They'd moved here unfettered to Portland. They'd moved the money unfettered. They'd kept it anonymously. Everything had worked for him.
And now it's time to lay low. Marion sticking to domestic duties as a housewife. Archie, as you see here, enjoying simple pleasures like the local nature trails. Vincent working as a bouncer.
Because remember, Archie wanted them all to stay under the radar financially.
Police hear neither hide nor thinning hair of Archie for years. To an outside observer, it looks like he's gone straight. Especially when, in 2005, he lands a new job in an old profession. You guessed it, he's driving an armored truck, this time for a local company called Oregon Armored Services.
He was pretty quiet, kept to himself. He was a little bit older than most people who worked there.
Kirk Goulian is a former ops manager at Oregon Armored and remembers Archie well.
Archie seemed like a reliable worker. Nothing really stood out.
Archie's responsibilities include making pickups and deliveries for banks and local government offices, including the U.S. Federal Reserve. Inside this undisclosed and highly secure location, millions upon millions of dollars are shuffled from room to room and prepped for various delivery points. This is Archie Cabello's kind of joint. That's him in his security uniform, badge and all. It all seems hunky-dory until the afternoon of December 5th, 2005, when shortly after 2 p.m., this 911 call comes in.
911.
Yeah, I'd like to report a robbery.
You were held up?
No, but I'm looking at a guy here who's handcuffed to his armored truck.
With Archie cuffed to the truck, the passerby holds up his phone to allow Archie to speak directly to the 911 operator.
I didn't look at him that much. He had a gun upside my head.
I understand it was pretty traumatic. Did they take any of your bags that are marked?
They took a couple of bags of money, yeah, that I could see, but I mean, I don't know. I had a lot of money on the truck. They couldn't take it all.
Within minutes, cops, neighbors, and TV crews are on the scene.
He was handcuffed to something inside the car.
He had been here for about 15 minutes, but he was handcuffed to the door so he couldn't answer his phone.
Archie gives authorities a breathless account of what happened.
Archie told me that an armed robber came up to the armored car, displayed his handgun, and said, "Open up the door."
That's where FBI Special Agent Don Metcalf, a colleague of Agent O'Connor, comes in. Archie tells him he's just been robbed, the robber wearing a fake beard and brandishing a gun. And Archie opened the door?
The armed robber, according to Archie during the interview, was start driving.
Archie Cabello told Portland police 2 robbers forced him to drive to the Southeast Portland location. Then he says he was handcuffed to the wheel while the thief took off with $3 million in cash.
The cops scour the neighborhood looking for one or more suspects.
Male white, 40s, 5'10 to 180. Wearing a black ball cap, unknown hair, but he had some kind of a fake dark beard on and sunglasses.
Apparently there was a gun involved.
Police search high and low, but find no one fitting the description. But that beard and the fateful decision to open the truck door, that's got the feds figuring this was an inside job.
I think right away he knew that he was a potential suspect, that I did not believe his story.
Was he defensive?
No.
Did he ask for a lawyer?
Nope.
Federal agents and Oregon Armored begin to break down Archie's story piece by piece.
The truck protection is sufficient enough to handle pistol rounds.
So in your mind, at first you go, well, why did he open the door? You know, the glass is bulletproof, the doors are bulletproof. The armored car drivers know that.
Archie has a gun, his engine is running, but he chooses neither fight nor flight.
Just drive off. That's the safest procedure for you.
Then there's that gunman.
He had some kind of a fake dark beard on and sunglasses.
Sound familiar? It should. The description nearly identical to the one Vincent Cabello used in the Milwaukee vault robbery. But when Vincent is questioned, he stays true to form.
His story was, I don't know nothing about nothing.
And now the FBI finds itself with 3 major cases, all involving the same family. Which begs the question, how in the world did Archie Cabello get another armored truck job in the first place? Do these guys not do a background check?
Well, they do. Ironically enough, there was no response until after the robbery.
And what was the response then?
The response was criminal information found.
Archie, I guess, handed his uniform shirt and his ID badge to the security guard and said, "I'm done here." And that was the last we heard from Archie in person at all.
Within weeks, it's clear to everybody what really happened. Archie and Vincent staged the whole thing and pulled their biggest job yet. Vincent was the robber this time, Archie the inside man. And the loot, those shrink-wrapped bricks of cash, $1.5 million each. Goulian was dispatched from Oregon Armored to take an inventory of the truck.
When we saw it with those 2 bags, I mean, we definitely said, oh, these are the big bags. If someone's going to steal something, this is what you're going to go for. We all knew 2 weeks after the incident, Archie done it. There was no question as to who had done it.
Authorities raid the modest Cabello home.
We'll knock on the door, FBI, we have a search warrant. He comes to the door.
Archie Cabello opens the door and a can of worms with an odd remark.
He said, "My wife didn't have anything to do with it."
That sounds like an admission.
It sounds like an admission.
But an admission to what? The cops don't find any stolen cash, and the house is no blinged-out bungalow. In fact, it's barely middle class. Archie drives an old clunker. There's wall unit air conditioning, yard sale quality furniture, and heck, they haven't even bothered to upgrade to a flat-screen TV.
They were prepared for what was coming, and, they handled it well.
You have to give the Cabellos credit for one thing, their credit score. The search of the home turns up credit cards everywhere, some even stuffed into Archie's boots.
They had more than 100 credit cards between the three of them.
We located numerous money order receipts.
That is not the kind of paper the FBI was hoping to find. They're desperate to find the money, and they're looking all over the city.
We went to 125 storage facilities, showed photographs of both Vincent and Archie with negative responses.
Nobody saw.
No one saw them.
They don't find any money, but the FBI comes out of here with a paper trail, credit card receipts, money orders, and the whole thing just doesn't pass the smell test. Speaking of which, what they should have been looking at are all those household cleaning products. If they'd taken a closer look, they would have found that they're so-called diversion safes. Take a look inside here. Rolls of $100 bills. If it's clear as day that he's your guy, then why is it that he wasn't charged?
The main piece of evidence was missing, the cash.
The cat and mouse game between Agent and Archie ends in a draw. Once again, the feds have their suspicions, but not enough hard evidence.
The conventional means to investigate a crime like this were exhausted, and there was just nothing to show for it.
Cracking the case will require the help of two unlikely characters. One, a pencil-pushing desk jockey from the IRS. The other, a motorcycle-riding outlaw who knows all the family secrets.
It's so weird.
What she uncovers and what he spills when we come back.
So right now we've got something you almost never have in a robbery. You know who did it, you know how they did it, you just can't prove it, but you don't know what they did with it.
So that leads to our Twitter question for you right here tonight. Where do you think those $4 million are hidden? Let us know on Facebook and Twitter.
Use the hashtag ABC2020. David and I will be right back.
"2020 continues with Family Business.
A major heist that sounds more like a Hollywood movie.
With a multi-million-dollar heist on their hands and a family of prime suspects in their sights, the FBI still doesn't have sufficient evidence to arrest the Cabellos.
Despite all these connections, FBI agents have not made an arrest.
Because, we didn't catch him with the money, we didn't catch him red-handed doing anything.
Hoping now to build a solid circumstantial case, the prosecutors enlist the help of a new agent, not from the FBI, but the IRS, the same agency that brought down Al Capone.
I had contacted them and spoke with Miranda Cole.
Agent Cole, more likely to pack a pocket protector than a pistol, focuses on that crazy cache of credit cards retrieved from the Cabello home. She pores over all the monthly statements, as well as the 620 money order receipts they found in the search, a process that takes years. A task you might call a tedious nightmare, but that she calls fun. As financial crimes go, is this one a tough one to prove?
It was a fun one to prove. He was really smart in how he spent his money. He was renting his house, he had older vehicles, he had credit card expenses, but they weren't extravagant.
Archie Cabello was not exactly living the lifestyles of the rich and famous, but even the low life came with a high overhead. So you went through the numbers here, and it didn't add up?
No, it didn't add up.
Archie's income was about $11,000 a year after the Oregon robbery, but keeping the family solvent required outlays of more than $250,000 on all those credit cards.
They would purchase things on the credit cards and pay the bills off with these money orders, and of course money orders can only be purchased with cash.
What would Archie buy with all those credit cards? The truth is, not much.
He had a few little luxuries once in a while, bottles of wine, or he joined a cigar club and would get a box of cigars once a month in the mail. That made him happy.
Marion had a thing for kitchen appliances and cooking magazines. But what's the point of stealing millions if you're going to live so frugally? The feds say Archie was playing a waiting game, counting the days until the 5-year statute of limitations on the Oregon robbery expired.
They were definitely doing that. And they thought that once the statute of limitations expired, they'd be scot-free.
Pulling that off requires discipline. Discipline Vincent Cabello apparently lacked when he couldn't resist temptation and bought a flashy Hummer with some of the money, sparking a family feud straight out of Goodfellas.
Are you stupid or what? Did you hear what I said? Don't buy anything, don't get anything, nothing big. Did you hear what I said? What's the matter with you?
When Vince bought a Hummer, that was not good, and I believe that caused some conflict.
He paid cash for it, and Archie was furious with him for doing that because Archie thought this would draw unwanted attention.
To the government, that Hummer purchase proved the money was still within the Cabellos' reach.
And that was our mission, really, to find out where the money had come from.
The little house was becoming a pressure cooker, straining family bonds to the breaking point. They had to be the most unhappy millionaires ever.
I think they all thought this money would give them freedom, but in essence, it was just the opposite.
They were just really miserable. The three of them were really miserable. They couldn't do the kinds of things that people who have millions tax-free, typically do.
Finally, things come to a head when the feds, worried that the clock is about to run out, decide Agent Cole has found enough evidence, even without the money, to make a case. So they move in.
We ended up arresting Archie, Marion, and Vincent.
Only 4 days before the statute of limitations expired.
A couple accused of faking a string of armored car robberies.
FBI agents say that it was an inside job, a family job, stealing millions of dollars.
The arrests make news in Oregon and all the way back to Milwaukee.
This was an inside job.
Facing a 51-count indictment, the Cabellos are released pending trial. Coming up, 2 key developments, one that may unlock the missing millions, and one that may lock up Archie Cabello forever.
Flabbergasted me. I never expected it.
She comes back and it says, "You're not going to believe this."
You won't believe it either when the man under that helmet decides it's time to tell all. Next.
Family Business continues on 2020.
On a recent afternoon, this man pulls a motorcycle into this parking lot, takes off his helmet, and takes some evasive maneuvers to avoid 2020 cameras. You may not recognize him, but don't let that chrome dome fool you. That's Vincent Cabello, former Army paratrooper, loyal son, and big-time thief. But instead of heading to a prison cell, he's heading into an apartment, toting a trusty six-pack. How'd he pull that off? By finally breaking ranks with his overbearing father, sacrificing his family for his freedom.
Vincent was the first to give up the farm. After that was done, Archie was cooked.
The Cabello family schism began shortly after they were all arrested and looking at lengthy prison terms, their 990-square-foot home becoming a prison of its own.
The case wasn't going away, and the trial's coming closer and closer.
Inside, there is dissension in the ranks.
The three of them together, every day, all day, just really wore on Vincent, and the tension in the household was extreme.
Brian Denson spoke with the family when he was the courthouse reporter for the Oregonian.
I see a lot of dysfunctional families, among the worst, and probably the worst I've seen in terms of just the strange dynamic between the father, the son, and the wife.
And that's saying something. 2020 has covered other patriarchs in the Pacific Northwest who've used their own kids for financial gain. Scott Catt robbed 5 banks in Oregon before moving his operation to Texas, where the master manipulator got not one, but both his kids to rob banks with him.
He was the muscle with the gun, and I was the money guy.
But that lifestyle is pressure-packed, and the pressure proved too much for the man on the motorcycle. He's finally ready to resolve his daddy issues in one fell swoop. One day, the phone rings, and it's Vincent Cabello's lawyer saying he's ready to cooperate. How does that change things?
He was very willing to tell a long story of how this had started in the 90s and it carried through to 2005 when they committed the large $3 million theft. And he was, in a way, getting something off his chest.
Vincent refused our repeated requests for an interview, but he told the feds everything.
Archie made him do things that deep down he probably didn't want to do.
When Vincent spilled the beans, it wasn't just about what happened, but about where the money was. He told you where the money was?
He told us very precisely where it was.
Vincent Cabello directs investigators to search the house one more time. Hidden behind a wall socket is a key. Inside the leg of a walker is a second key, the key to unlock a decade-long mystery. The investigators race to Washington State. In the shadow of Seattle, a safe deposit box company in Bellevue, Washington, offers an unusual service: anonymity for a fee. The Cabellos have rented a safety deposit box here for $1,250 a year, but you'd never know it, because for an extra $100, Cabello gets to select a fake name as the official owner of the box.
What was the fake name?
Archie's name was Mike Alda. Marion's name was Marie Martin. Vincent's name was Ron Alda.
And they're visiting from time to time to pull out just enough to sort of keep the bills paid.
Access records reveal this is where Vincent came to hide the $3 million from the Oregon robbery. But the man who visited here more than 50 times to take cash back to Portland was Archie Cabello. Cash used to buy all those money orders and pay off that credit card debt, and cash doled out to his wife and son through those household product canisters. Among them, Marion's bug spray, shaving cream, and kitchen cleanser for Vincent, and WD-40 for Archie. For FBI agents Ken O'Connor and Don Metcalf, the end is in sight.
For the most part, it confirmed a lot of things that we suspected. Now, obviously, we didn't know where the money was. We knew it was somewhere. We didn't know where. He told us where it was.
He tells them to head straight to box number 254.
Agent O'Connor gave me the honors and said, okay, open it up. I opened it up, and there was roughly $1.9 million in $100 bills in that suitcase.
But looking at that money.
So it was a good ending to a case that I thought was worked really well. Everyone involved.
Stack upon stack of crisp, mouth-watering Benjamins. It's the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow they have been chasing for years. The two FBI agents and IRS agent Miranda Cole now have everything they need to close the case.
But it must feel good.
Closure's good. Justice is good.
It would have been a much more difficult case without the money. So having this money was a huge break in the case.
The family is now an edible wreck. Archie and Marion are rearrested and jailed. Vincent exiled from his parents' affections as they learn he's turned state's evidence. Everybody gets their own defense lawyer. Listen to this prison phone call between Archie and his other son. You can hear the pain and scorn in his voice as he discusses Vincent.
He's going to testify against you guys. So, we'll have the sad spectacle of our son sitting there and pointing fingers at him. It's on Fox News, ABC News.
A former Wisconsin family is busted for a series of armored car heists.
It went national? Yeah, it's coast to coast. Idiot. He's just a hateful, spiteful person. We got to put him out of our minds because nothing we can do about him. No, he's a psycho. You should see his face. Dial 911 immediately. Immediately.
Mom asked me to remove all of his pictures from the house.
Marion, I assume you went back to her after this phone call from Vincent and said, hey, your son's cooperating. What was her reaction?
She came in with her lawyer also and decided to talk to us as well.
Archie stalls court proceedings as he scrambles to think of a way out. The man who always played the angles reduced to rolling the dice, buying megabucks tickets in a desperate attempt to win millions to pay back the money.
How about it last night?
It didn't go in our favor.
The lab's good? No, but what else you got? I don't care how you want it.
But Archie's luck had finally run out. When we return, we find Marion Cabello enjoying her freedom in Marlboro country. Her husband's in jail, her son Vincent banished from the family. So authorities a breathless account of what happened.
Archie told me that an armed robber came up to the armored car, displayed his handgun, and said, open up the door.
That's where FBI Special Agent Don Metcalf, a colleague of Agent O'Connor, comes in. Archie tells him he's just been robbed, the robber wearing a fake beard and brandishing a gun. And Archie opened the door?
The armed robber, according to Archie during the interview, was start driving.
Archie Cabello told Portland police 2 robbers forced him to drive to the Southeast Portland location. Then he says he was handcuffed to the wheel while the thief took off with $3 million in cash.
The cops scour the neighborhood looking for one or more suspects.
Male white, 40s, 5'10 to 180. Wearing a black ball cap, unknown hair, but he had some kind of a fake dark beard on and sunglasses.
Apparently there was a gun involved.
Police search high and low, but find no one fitting the description. But that beard and the fateful decision to open the truck door, that's got the feds figuring this was an inside job.
I think right away he knew that he was a potential suspect, that I did not believe his story.
Was he defensive?
No.
Did he ask for a lawyer?
Nope.
Federal agents and Oregon Armored begin to break down Archie's story piece by piece.
The truck protection is sufficient enough to handle pistons. You know, they handled it well.
You have to give the Cabellos credit for one thing, their credit score. The search of the home turns up credit cards everywhere, some even stuffed into Archie's boots.
They had more than 100 credit cards between the 3 of them.
We located numerous money order receipts.
That is not the kind of paper the FBI was hoping to find. They're desperate to find the money, and they're looking all over the city.
We went to 125 storage facilities, showed photographs of both Vincent and Archie with negative responses.
Nobody saw
him. No one saw him.
They don't find any money, but the FBI comes out of here with a paper trail, credit card receipts, money orders, and the whole thing just doesn't pass the smell test. Speaking of which, what they should have been looking at are all those household cleaning products. If they'd taken a closer look, they would have found that they're so-called diversion safes. Take a look inside here. Rolls of $100 bills. If it's clear as day that he's your guy, then why is it that he wasn't charged?
The main piece of evidence was missing, the cash.
The cat and mouse game between agent and Archie ends in a draw. Once again, the feds have their suspicions, but not enough hard evidence.
The conventional means to investigate a crime like this were exhausted, and there was just nothing to show for it.
Cracking the case will require the wife to support. That's her, a chain smoker puffing away. They've been together since she was a teenager.
One thing was really clear, he loves his wife.
Archie also loves money, but he hates to work, according to veteran journalist Brian Denson.
Archie would have been great if he'd just gone to college, if he'd had some means growing up to go to college, because he's a smart guy.
Smart enough to figure out a shortcut to a much more lucrative career path. You see, Archie doesn't just drive any truck. He drives an armored truck stuffed with cash. You've seen them double parked as they deliver their precious cargo to stores, banks, and ATM machines. Cold, hard cash. Easy money, if you can get to it. These things are Fort Knox on wheels. Tell me about Archie.
What do you want to know?
That's FBI Special Agent Ken O'Connor, an expert in armored car robberies, and Archie Cabello.
I was fortunate that I've done cases like this before.
It was his job to piece together the Cabello capers years after the fact.
But is this the kind of case everybody else likes to avoid? Kind of a clunker?
For a person that wants to be on that kind of squad, this is not the case they're dying to do. So for me, it was just, all right, let's just get it done.
With his help, we retraced Archie's steps on the day he was due to deliver cash and coin to banks and businesses all over Milwaukee.
The 2 people...
Low class. Archie drives an old clunker. There's wall unit air conditioning, yard sale quality furniture, and heck, they haven't even bothered to upgrade to a flat screen TV.
They were prepared for what was coming, and, you know, they handled it well.
You have to give the Cabellos credit for one thing, their credit score. The search of the home turns up credit cards everywhere, some even stuffed into Archie's boots.
They had more than 100 credit cards between the 3 of them.
We located numerous money order receipts.
That is not the kind of paper the FBI was hoping to find. They're desperate to find the money, and they're looking all over the city.
We went to 125 storage facilities, showed photographs of both Vincent and Archie with negative responses.
Nobody saw.
No one saw them.
They don't find any money, but the FBI comes out of here with a paper trail, credit card receipts, money orders, and the whole thing just doesn't pass the smell test. Speaking of which, what they should have been looking at are all those household cleaning products. If they'd taken a closer look, they would have found that they're so-called diversion safes. Take a look inside here. Rolls of $100 bills. If it's clear as day that he's your guy, then why is it that he wasn't charged?
The main piece of evidence was missing, the cash.
The cat and mouse game between Agent and Archie ends in a draw. Once again,
Well, they do. Ironically enough, there was no response until after the robbery.
And what was the response then?
The response was criminal information found.
Archie, I guess, handed his uniform shirt and his ID badge to the security guard and said, "I'm done here." And that was the last we heard from Archie in person at all.
within weeks, it's clear to everybody what really happened. Archie and Vincent staged the whole thing and pulled their biggest job yet. Vincent was the robber this time, Archie the inside man. And the loot, those shrink-wrapped bricks of cash, $1.5 million each. Goulian was dispatched from Oregon Armored to take an inventory of the truck.
When we saw it with those two bags, I mean, we definitely said, oh, these are the big bags. If someone's gonna steal something, this is what you're gonna go for. We all knew 2 weeks after the incident, Archie done it. There was no question as to who had done it.
Authorities raid the modest Cabello home.
We'll knock on the door, FBI, we have a search warrant. He comes to the door.
Archie Cabello opens the door, and a can of worms with an odd remark.
You said, my wife didn't have anything to do with it.
That sounds like an admission.
It sounds like an admission.
But an admission to what? The cops don't find any stolen cash, and the house is no blinged-out bungalow. In fact, it's barely middle class. Archie drives an old clunker. There's wall unit air conditioning. Yards.
There are two people for a break or bathroom break.
All he needs is a few quick minutes alone with his thoughts and all that money. He pulls around back, and there he meets up with the car that's been quietly tracking his every move. Archie takes that bag of cash he's just picked out of First Star Bank and makes a rather unusual deposit.
Her open window onto the passenger side seat, and they both drove off.
Archie loops back around and waits for the crew to come off their break. Once in the truck, the trio resumes their work, none the wiser that their load has been lightened by more than $100,000.
It's cheeky. He's a cheeky guy. But, you know, I think like a lot of folks who make the bulk of their money illegally, Archie decided that he could be cheeky.
Meanwhile, the driver of the car is transferring the cash out of the bank bag and into another carry-on, soon to be stashed away. Obviously, at the end of the day, Archie is going to have some explaining to do.
So he just said, oops.
I got lost in the shuffle somehow.
Pretty big thing to get lost in the shuffle, $157,000?
Exactly.
That's right. When his bosses ask, where's the money? Archie's response is as simple as, I don't know. He gets an unintended assist from his coworkers. The crew isn't saying much either, primarily because they don't know much.
What was the story that they told?
They, of course, denied taking the bag. One of them
knocks on wheels.
Tell me about Archie.
What do you want to know?
That's FBI Special Agent Ken O'Connor, an expert in armored car robberies, and Archie Cabello.
I was fortunate that I've done cases like this before.
It was his job to piece together the Cabello capers years after the fact.
But is this the kind of case everybody else likes to avoid? Kind of a clunker?
For a person that wants to be on that kind of squad, this is not the case they're dying to do. So for me, it was just, all right, let's just get it done.
With his help, we retraced Archie's steps on the day he was due to deliver cash and coin to banks and businesses all over Milwaukee.
The two people he was assigned with were, one had been there on the job for a week, the other had been on the job for 2 weeks, so he was the senior guy.
The inexperience of those co-workers plays a key role here because they take orders from Archie, no questions asked. What they don't know is that somebody else is also watching their armored truck. Every day at a predetermined time, a woman leaves her job at a local cafe, gets into her ordinary car, goes for a drive, and then parks. Every day she watches the armored truck. Once it passes, they go their separate ways. Same routine day after day after day. But today, it's going to be different. Today, when the armored truck reaches the corner, the truck driver, Archie, hits the hazard lights.
Do they take any of your bags that are marked?
They took a couple of bags of money, yeah, that I could see, but I mean, I don't know. I had a lot of money on the truck. They couldn't take it all.
Within minutes, cops, neighbors, and TV crews are on the scene.
He was handcuffed to something inside the car.
He had been here for about 15 minutes, but he was handcuffed to the door so he couldn't answer his phone.
Archie gives authorities a breathless account of what happened.
Archie told me that an armed robber came up to the armored car, displayed his handgun, and said, "Open up the door."
That's where FBI Special Agent Don Metcalf, a colleague of Agent O'Connor, comes in. Archie tells him he's just been robbed, the robber wearing a fake beard and brandishing a gun. And Archie opened the door?
The armed robber, according to Archie during the interview, was start driving.
Archie Cabello told Portland police 2 robbers forced him to drive to the Southeast Portland location. Then he says he was handcuffed to the wheel while the thief took off with $3 million in cash.
The cops scour the neighborhood looking for one or more suspects.
Male white 40s, 5'10 to 180. Wearing a black ball cap, unknown hair, but he had some kind of a fake dark beard on and sunglasses.
Apparently there was a gun involved.
Police search high and low, but find no one fitting the description. But that beard and the fateful decision to open the truck door, that's got the feds figuring this was an inside the kind of paper the FBI was hoping to find. They're desperate to find the money, and they're looking all over the city.
We went to 125 storage facilities, showed photographs of both Vincent and Archie with negative responses.
Nobody saw.
No one saw them.
They don't find any money, but the FBI comes out of here with a paper trail, credit card receipts, money orders, and the whole thing just doesn't pass the smell test. Speaking of which, what they should have been looking at are all those household cleaning products. If they'd taken a closer look, they would have found that they're so-called diversion safes. Take a look inside here. Rolls of $100 bills. If it's clear as day that he's your guy, then why is it that he wasn't charged?
The main piece of evidence was missing, the cash.
The cat and mouse game between Agent and Archie ends in a draw. Once again, the feds have their suspicions, but not enough hard evidence.
The conventional means to investigate a crime like this were exhausted, and there was just nothing to show for it.
Cracking the case will require the help of 2 unlikely characters. One, a pencil-pushing desk jockey from the IRS. The other, a motorcycle-riding outlaw who knows all the family secrets.
It's so weird.
What she uncovers and what he spills when we come back.
So right now we've got...
Let's get him out, yeah.
But the money's beginning to add up, and just like the armored car heist, what police suspect and what they can prove turn out to be 2 different things.
In these cases, they're hard to prove. With Vincent standing to his story, we had no probable cause to arrest him.
In this robbery alone, $730,000 vanished without a trace, and no one was ever charged.
Archie and Vincent took advantage of weak procedures at each of these companies, and they exploited them. And, you know, the money's clearly out there somewhere.
But where'd the money go? It's a question that haunts the FBI, who suspect the Cabellos, but the family seems to be living paycheck to paycheck. 1 year after the robbery, the felonious family pulls up stakes and quietly leaves Milwaukee for Portland, Oregon. So at this point, 2 robberies, almost $1 million, 900,000, give or take?
Yes.
But it's not time for retirement yet. No time for retirement. Coming up, Archie hired again as a security guard. This time with boxes of cash headed to the U.S. Federal Reserve. Caper number 3, set to be his biggest yet. And how much they get away with?
$3 million in cash.
$3 million.
Yes.
So why are they living here? When we return. Rich beer history, but a place where Archie Cabello has something else brewing.
I think he's a very cunning individual.
General impression of Archie was the guy who showed up on time, went out on route every day, drove his route, but there wasn't a lot memorable about the guy.
In 1995, he's grinding it out as a truck driver, making about $6 an hour. 48 years old with bills to pay, 2 kids and a wife to support. That's her, a chain smoker puffing away. They've been together since she was a teenager.
One thing was really clear, he loves his wife.
To work, according to veteran journalist Brian Denson.
Archie would have been great if he'd just gone to college, if he'd had some means growing up to go to college, because he's a smart guy.
Smart enough to figure out a shortcut to a much more lucrative career path. You see, Archie doesn't just drive any truck. He drives an armored truck stuffed with cash. You've seen them double parked as they deliver their precious cargo to stores, banks, and ATM machines. Cold, hard cash. Easy money, if you can get to it. These things are Fort Knox on wheels. Tell me about Archie.
What do you want to know?
That's FBI Special Agent Ken O'Connor, an expert in armored car.
For the Cook family of Georgetown, Texas, Thursday, January 10th, 2002, begins like any other day. Robert, a software engineer, his wife Janet, an art teacher, and their youngest daughter Joanne, a high school student, eat breakfast and share plans. The only thing a little out of the ordinary this morning is the presence of the family's eldest daughter, Rachel, who is sprawled out asleep on a nearby couch. Rachel is visiting on her winter break from a college in San Diego.
She was sleeping on her couch while she was in town for my cousin's wedding.
Rachel has extended her stay in Texas to attend the wedding and has been driving her family crazy, asking them which of the many outfits she has brought home she should wear.
She couldn't decide, and she was asking everybody's opinion on which one. Of course, she'd end up using the one she wanted anyway, but she always asked.
She was very into fashion. My sister was kind of a fashionista in her own way. She loved shopping. It was one of her very favorite things to do.
On Christmas Day, she'd worn a new tan sweater with beaded trim.
She was like, yeah, this is my new sweater. I got it, it was $400, and my mouth just dropped open. I couldn't believe it, but that's kind of how she was.
We were supposed to go out that Thursday night, and we were so excited because I hadn't seen her in so long.
Shannon Leach hasn't seen much of her best friend since Rachel moved to California, but their relationship goes back a long way.
Rachel and I met probably, I think we were about 5 years old, and she was just one of those people you love to be around. She was funny and beautiful, just such a good person.
Rachel brought her new boyfriend home with her, but by New Year's, he'd already returned to California.
She told me how happy and in love with him that she was, and they seemed to get along really well, and she seemed very happy.
He was a super guy. He was very attentive to her, very sympathetic to her desires about her future, her dreams.
My sister told me that she really thought Greg was the one. She told me that she wanted to, eventually get engaged.
Rachel is planning to move in with Greg and enroll in a fashion design program once she returns.
I think she would have been very successful because she always had her own style on things. She was just always looked beautiful in whatever she did because she could create these outfits that nobody else could get away with, and it would just look amazing on her.
When she was 18, Rachel brought her fashion sense to the Miss Georgetown contest. She didn't win, but that didn't faze her.
Rachel normally wasn't into pageantry type things, but she decided her senior year that she was going to take part in that. And I think she really enjoyed the experience. As to winning, I don't think that was her real goal. I think it was just to take part.
She's very beautiful, and so men were always attracted to her. She was just one of those people that you wanted to be around all the time.
She just loved life, and she never could get enough done in a day. She had her whole life to do things.
On that Thursday morning, Rachel's father, Robert, leaves first. Her sister and mother say their goodbyes around 8 a.m. and head for school.
I walked over and told her goodbye, and she just kind of mumbled. So we said, good morning, goodbye, and we left for work.
Around an hour later, Rachel is awakened by a cell phone call from her boyfriend in San Diego. She tells him she is going to get up and go for her daily run in the neighborhood. Rachel says she misses him and will call him when she returns home after her jog.
She'd run 4 or 6 miles every day, so that was a good workout for her. It kept her in shape.
Athletic since childhood, Rachel has been an avid runner for most of her life.
She started running in elementary school, and she suddenly realized that she was beating almost all the boys, and she decided she wanted to do that, and she did long-distance track and cross-country.
Sometime after her phone call with her boyfriend ends, Rachel puts on her running clothes, grabs a portable radio and earphones, and goes out for her run. Her parents' ranch-style house is in a subdivision of Georgetown, Texas, a little north of Austin. Most homes sit on large lots of more than an acre and are set back from the road. On a workday, there isn't much traffic by foot or by car as Rachel jogs her usual route. She has been running here since she was a child.
She loved it out there, and I think she, in a way, missed it. She loved the excitement of California, but home's always home, too.
Hours later, when her family returns, Rachel is not home. And from the looks of things, she's never returned from her run at all. Coming up, surprise at Rachel's sudden disappearance turns to shock and then horror.
I knew something was terribly, terribly, terribly wrong.
Rachel was a hometown girl. She grew up here. She was raised here. Everybody knew her. And to our knowledge, and most of the agencies around here, there's never been a case.
"19-year-old Rachel Cook has gone out for her customary 6-mile run. Hours later, her father returns home and finds several of his daughter's dresses and shoes lined up in the living room. But Rachel isn't there. Her father notices that Rachel's cell phone is still at the house, as is her purse. Wondering where she could have gone without them, Robert calls Rachel's longtime friend, Shannon Leach.
He had asked me if I had talked to her, and I had said no, but we were planning on going out later, and he told me that she was gone, but that none of her stuff was gone. And everybody that knew Rachel knew she didn't go anywhere without her personal belongings, especially her makeup. So right then when he told me that, I started to get really worried.
Rachel's family is concerned too. Her mother phones Wildfire, a restaurant where Rachel sometimes works when she's in town.
They said she worked that night, so we thought, well, maybe she caught a ride to there and she was filling in for someone and she forgot to take her purse and her cell phone, and she'd be coming home any time.
But by morning, Rachel has not returned. Another call to the restaurant uncovers a mix-up. It was a different Rachel, not Rachel Cook, who had worked the night before. Now even more alarmed, her family surveys Rachel's extensive wardrobe and discovers that only her jogging outfit and running shoes are missing.
I knew something was terribly, terribly, terribly wrong. And all evidence looked like she'd gone out for a run and had not come home.
I decided that I was going to go out and drive Rachel's jogging path. I drove that really slow, looking to see maybe she got hit by a car and might have been laying on the side.
Janet Cook checks out the local hospital. It has been more than 24 hours since Rachel went out for her run and disappeared. Neither parent finds any sign of their daughter. As if in a dream, they head to the sheriff's office to report Rachel missing.
We received a report on January the 11th, 2002, from Robert and Janet Cook that their daughter Rachel Cook was missing. She had been unaccounted for already a day. Rachel was a hometown girl. She grew up here. She was raised here. Everybody knew her. To our knowledge, and most of the agencies around here, there's never been a case like this.
Georgetown is a classically quaint, old Texas town, surrounded by quiet residential neighborhoods and cattle ranches. Abductions were unheard of until Rachel Cook disappeared.
Nothing happens here. It's a small town. Everybody's friendly. You don't think that something like that could happen to you.
Her parents have been uneasy about Rachel living in the much larger city of San Diego, where she moved after high school.
We were worried about her in San Diego. We thought that they'd have a high crime rate. It never occurred to us that it would happen when she was at home.
Nothing ever happened to her there, and she comes home, and home's supposed to be safe, and it wasn't.
At first, Rachel's family believes the authorities are slow to respond to their missing person report.
I felt like the police didn't take it seriously enough, a little bit inclined to say, it's probably nothing, things like that don't happen here. She was a young girl, she probably just went out to go party and didn't tell people, because for the most part, that's what happens in Georgetown.
You said that she was off in Mexico, probably with her boyfriend, and that she'd be home any minute. And that was kind of discouraging.
We lost some valuable time because in an abduction, the first 48, 72 hours, that's your window right there. And we lost it.
When the Cooks don't hear back from police on Friday, they organize a search by friends and family for Saturday morning. When an investigator finally appears around noon on Saturday, he stops the search.
They were, I think, kind of astounded at how many people were out there. But I think they were also freaking out because there were people just tromping around on what might be a crime scene.
The next day, an investigator from the legendary Texas Rangers joins the investigation.
I was contacted by the Williamson County Sheriff's Office on January the 13th of 2002. Pretty early on in the investigation, it was determined that it would be unlike Rachel's behavior just to go off and not tell anyone where she was, so it created suspicion.
And he told me he didn't think Rachel left on her own, so that made me feel a little bit more like I finally got to the right person. And so they started approaching it more like there was a problem.
An all-out official search involving volunteers and several agencies begins on Sunday, 4 days after Rachel vanishes.
We utilized everything we had. ATVs, horseback, helicopters, massive search parties. Brought in a search team called EquiSearch to help do the search with us so we'd have more manpower. Anywhere Rachel was known to have gone when she was at home, that area was searched.
But the searchers turn up nothing.
No sign of Rachel Cook or any of the clothing that she was possibly wearing.
Detectives struggle to set up a timeline of Rachel's last known movements. She was last seen by her mother and sister around 8 a.m. on Thursday. Cell phone records confirm her last phone call was with her boyfriend in California, ending at 9:15 a.m. When police canvassed the neighborhood, it turns out a number of neighbors caught sight of Rachel as she was jogging later that Thursday morning.
Two separate couples, they identified her and they described her clothing and her hair, and we believe that to be Rachel.
It was after 10 a.m. on Thursday when Rachel passed one couple out for their daily walk as she did her circuit around the neighborhood. Around 20 minutes later, she passed them again. a woman working in her yard with her daughter, tells investigators she saw Rachel as she ran to the end of their cul-de-sac and did some stretches. The two exchange greetings, and Rachel continues on her run.
The last known sighting of Rachel Cook was a couple that actually knew the family, and around 10:45 they were pulling out of their driveway, and Rachel had run behind the vehicle. They had looked at her and did recognize that it was her running, and they saw her going towards her house. Their residence was about 200 yards from her residence, so they assumed that she was going home.
After that, Rachel Cook disappears as if into thin air.
There's no evidence that she actually arrived at the house.
So assumptions were that she was abducted during that jog from the neighborhood in which she lived.
It is an assumption that leaves little to go on and is of no comfort to her family. As the days go by with no sign of Rachel, her parents are devastated.
They were a wreck. They were both in tears, just not knowing what was going on and what had happened to Rachel.
Rachel's disappearance is a baffling mystery, a probable crime without a crime scene to investigate.
You have a person who basically vanished. We have absolutely no evidence of a crime scene at all. There's no evidence on the road, there's no evidence in the house, there's no evidence anywhere that anything even happened to her.
Coming up, Rachel's father takes a lie detector test.
I actually failed one question. They asked me if I knew where Rachel was, and I said,
Rachel Cook's disappearance shocks Central Texas. The official search ends after several days, but hundreds of volunteers helped the Cooks continue to look for their daughter for weeks.
When they'd come back, they'd feel so disappointed because they had not found her. They'd be in tears and very emotional about it.
Mounted search and recovery teams from Texas EquiSearch comb hundreds of square miles for evidence.
They turned in everything that was semi-suspicious to the sheriff's department.
I'd look around and think, oh my God, Rachel, look at all these people that care for you, baby. It just tore me up that so many people would come together for her.
Media attention brings a record number of tips to police.
There were hundreds of leads, if not thousands.
I have interviewed probably in the triple digits people that we have as a suspect or just a witness on this case.
Early on, investigators develop a lead. A suspicious car was seen by many in the neighborhood the day Rachel disappeared.
A white Camaro was seen in the area. We actually lost count of how many reports we had of white Camaros come into the tip line.
Witnesses report two young men in a white Camaro aimlessly circling the neighborhood. One report mentions a jogger in Rachel's age range near the Camaro. Another suggests a young woman possibly struggling in the car.
Investigators worked really hard to locate that particular car. Several were located and examined, but no evidence was found that actually linked Rachel to those particular vehicles.
Finally, the lead about the two young men in the Camaro comes to a dead end. It turns out to be a couple of teenagers playing hooky.
They admitted to us what they were doing in the area. Background search was completed on both of them. There was no evidence in their vehicle that we needed as far as DNA evidence or anything, and they were excluded as suspects in this case.
The Camaro isn't the only vehicle of interest. Sheriff's Department divers suit up and search the murky waters of Lake Georgetown, just a couple of miles down the road from the Cook home.
We had reports such as vehicles submerged here in the Lake Georgetown, and those were recovered from the lake and deemed to have been stolen earlier before her disappearance, so they were not related, so that was ruled out.
Composite sketches of unidentified males seen in the area are drawn up by police artists and distributed to the public.
Those, of course, went through the media, and no real good tips on those as far as who they might look like or anything such as that.
In addition to suspicious strangers, detectives examined people closer to home. Rachel's boyfriend, Greg, who flies back on Sunday to help with the search, is questioned as soon as he arrives.
Initially, I was involved in interviewing a present boyfriend of Rachel's from California.
Greg is given a lie detector test, even though phone records confirm that his call to Rachel the morning she disappeared was made from San Diego.
We were able to pretty much rule the gentleman out early in the investigation and continue our focus on other people.
Both of Rachel's parents also volunteered to take lie detector tests. Robert fails a question on his.
They asked me if I knew where Rachel was. I said no, and unfortunately, I think I do. I think she's in heaven. So I think that's why I didn't pass that one question on the quiz.
You start ruling out those people close to her. They were able to clear some people, some still remain people of interest.
One of Rachel's ex-boyfriends becomes a person of interest. Her sister Joanne's suspicions center on him.
My sister had mentioned that she had seen her ex-boyfriend, and she didn't go into detail with me, but she had mentioned that he made a scene. My intuition tells me that it's not unreasonable to think that he could have had a fight with her and something happened.
Many of Rachel's friends and family members say they considered her relationship with the ex-boyfriend to be volatile.
Their relationship was really kind of like fire and ice from the get-go.
Rachel's mother says the young man was very upset after Rachel broke off their relationship.
And when she came home the next time for the holiday, he came over and he was inebriated. And he came, it must have been 3 o'clock at night, pounding on the door wanting to see Rachel. So I had to threaten him because he just would not leave. I threatened to call the sheriff's department.
He still wanted to be a part of her life, and she didn't want to have anything to do with him.
They had been at a party a couple nights before, and people heard him arguing, and he was yelling at her and telling her that he couldn't live without her, and he wanted to be with her again and that she needed to be with him. This was 2 days before she disappeared.
Police investigate, but the man denies any involvement in Rachel's disappearance.
I just don't know. Ex-boyfriends, ex-husbands are always someone you have to look at, but when you don't have any proof, then you can't really call them a suspect.
The months go by. Despite all the efforts to solve the mystery, the first anniversary of Rachel's disappearance arrives, with authorities seemingly no closer to finding out what happened to Rachel Cook than they were at the outset. The family begins to lose hope.
I started thinking about all of the things that she was going to miss, that I was still going to get to do.
Being the parent of a missing person, or being a relative of a missing person, there's a thing we say that it's one of the biggest clubs in the world. And it's one club you never want to join.
Coming up, after years without a break in the Rachel Cook case, the investigation heats up when a convicted murderer reveals he has something to say.
He advised us that he killed Rachel Cook and named locations that he had taken her.
An exhaustive investigation fails to solve the mystery of Rachel Cook's disappearance. A year later, there are lots of theories about what may have happened to Rachel, but no evidence.
There's really no telling how it came down after she passed that driveway. Somebody was driving by and took an opportunity. It could be a possibility that someone was laying in wait for her. It would not have been easy for her to hear someone coming up on her.
I suspect that it happened either in the last part of her jog or else as soon as she walked into the house, because we never locked our house. We felt safe in that country area.
The case goes cold and becomes officially inactive. For the Cooks, the stress of Rachel's loss leads to additional family crises.
My sister's disappearance definitely changed my family. I think we each deal in our own way. And in a way that kind of got in between some of us.
Robert and I weren't communicating. When it came to Rachel's stuff, we were together. We were going to do what we needed to do for our baby. But his and mine's personal relationship it just wasn't there anymore.
She wanted hugs, she wanted comfort, whereas my dad wanted to make sure it doesn't happen again. And then he also was kind of our liaison for the media and making sure the word got out.
It was very difficult on us because when you have a missing loved one, that comes to be like a second job. I ended up getting laid off. Janet and I were divorced, and just psychologically, it's always there. You wake up to it every day.
I asked for a divorce because I was just trying to keep myself alive. I mean, I had depression like you wouldn't believe. And I was seeing a psychiatrist, and I was on major meds.
And me, I tried to go on with life as much as I could, as much as normal.
Then, 2 years after Rachel disappears, there is fresh interest in the case when a new sheriff pulls together a Rachel Cook task force made up of sheriff's detectives, Texas Rangers, FBI, and the Austin Cold Case Unit.
And they thought they were really going to find Rachel. They tried for a long time and still did not come up with a lot that hadn't been found before.
In 2006, Detective Larry Hawkins is assigned, and when the task force is disbanded, he inherits its files, which take up 6 shelves and several file cabinets in his office. The father of 3 daughters, he is determined to solve the case.
A lot of police officers are looked at, we don't have a heart, and we're all about business, but Rachel Cook is someone's daughter. And for those of us who have kids, it kind of hits home.
Then, in August of 2006, investigators get what looks like a clear breakthrough in the case. From prison, a convicted murderer contacts authorities with a stunning story.
A gentleman named Michael Moore, who was the subject of an unrelated homicide investigation, told investigators that he was responsible for the disappearance of Rachel Cook.
Michael Moore is a career criminal who has been in and out of trouble since the age of 13. Moore has spent much of his adult life in prison. At the time of his confession to law officers, he is serving 4 life sentences for the 2003 robbery and murder of a young mother and her unborn child in a town neighboring Georgetown.
Michael Moore is a very interesting individual. He does have a history of murder. He has a history of a lot of things that would make him be a good suspect for this case.
Both Detective Hawkins and Texas Ranger Lindeman, among others, interview Moore in prison. He tells them he was driving around the neighborhood looking for someone to rob when he saw Rachel.
He advised us that he killed Rachel Cook and named locations that he had taken her.
He came forward and confessed that he had taken Rachel and dumped her body in Matagorda Bay, which is on the Gulf Coast of Texas.
Moore offers investigators a chilling, detailed account of what he had done to Rachel and how he had accosted her on the road.
and he stopped when she was jogging on the road and killed her with a hammer. That was all hard to hear.
The story is plausible. Moore was out of prison at the time of Rachel's disappearance and lived not far from her parents' house. After Rachel disappeared, a white pickup truck became a vehicle of interest. Moore was said to have driven a white pickup at the time. Rachel's mother remembers seeing such a vehicle near her house.
There is a white pickup truck that was in the area. And I think it was the first night after we went to the police, before the police were involved in the search. It cruised real slowly by the house.
Investigators continue to spend time talking with Moore. They believe they are starting to build a solid case.
Investigators interrogated him extensively, even taking him to locations where he had claimed to have disposed of her body.
Divers search a location Moore takes them to in Matagorda Bay, but they find nothing. Still, he and his attorneys work out a deal for Moore to plead guilty to the murder of Rachel Cook. In return for helping investigators, Moore is to get only an additional 18 months on his existing sentence. The Cooks hope for some kind of closure. Finally, an end to their long ordeal is in sight. They gather their family and friends and go to the courthouse for Michael Moore's plea hearing.
It was a really big deal for me and my family that we might get some sort of resolution. So people canceled everything they had going on in their lives to make it up here for that.
And we went in there and I saw Moore for the first time in person, sitting there with his lawyers.
Coming up, a shocking event at the courthouse shatters Rachel's family.
He is a predator. He lives and breathes based on taking advantage of other people. And he used my daughter for his own gain. That's why he did.
November 9th, 2006. For 4 years, Rachel Cook's family has been waiting and hoping for this day. A convicted murderer, Michael Moore, says he is finally going to tell them what happened to their daughter.
The day that Mr. Moore was going to enter his plea of guilty, there was a lot of interest generated because there had been so much extensive news coverage of Rachel's disappearance, and now it came down to the day that somebody was going to admit that they were the cause of her disappearance.
There was tons of reporters. The courtroom was absolutely full. It was almost like you see on TV. It just seemed very surreal.
The courtroom was packed with people, and Mr. Moore stood there to enter his plea.
Calls number 06-18-23-K-368, State versus Michael Keith Moore. People charged of murder is alleged. How do you plead? Not guilty. Repeat that for me.
And then he got up there, and he said not guilty. And it was kind of a hush just fell over the entire crowd. Nobody knew what to do. He had been feeding the information that he had done it and said that he had done it. And then out of nowhere, he just decides that he is going to take it back.
Which was contrary to what he had been telling investigators and the prosecutor's office that he was going to do.
Moore's turnabout creates an uproar, even surprising his lawyers. But he sticks to his not guilty plea, and the hearing is dismissed. The Cook family voices outrage. They feel victimized all over again.
Come forward and be a man for once in your life and tell the truth.
Moore later tells a reporter that he made the whole story up.
He is a predator. He lives and breathes based on taking advantage of other people. And he used my daughter for his own gain. That's why he did everything.
I was livid. I thought that whether or not he had done it, the fact that he would put my family through that we would all come there hoping to get some kind of answers. And then he just throws it back in our face and says he doesn't care about anything.
The DA announces he will pursue a murder charge against Moore, but a grand jury is never called. Without Moore's cooperation, there is no case.
We were not able to speak to him anymore after that. He did sign paperwork, but it was not finalized by a judge as far as prosecuting him on it. There's no evidence that he actually did what he said he did.
Personally, that was the first time that I had had anyone own up to or claim to have done such a thing and then at the last minute back out on those claims.
He's still a very strong person of interest.
Investigators have not been idle in the years since Michael Moore changed his plea. Acting on tips, Williamson County divers have searched Georgetown Lake at least 4 times, but they haven't found any trace of Rachel. Detective Larry Hawkins and Texas Ranger Matt Lindeman continue to work leads, hoping for a breakthrough.
You have to eliminate everything because one day you're going to have a legitimate tip. We have some tips of interest that we're looking at right now.
Some of those tips lead investigators to excavate portions of a property in Williamson County. Detective Hawkins uses ground-penetrating radar probes to look for disturbed soil and other indications someone may be buried at a location.
For the last 3 years, we get a continuous tip, as I call it, that Rachel is on a certain property. We've had multiple searches out there. It's just a continuous story that we hear with a little twist each time. It comes back to the same people every time. We're going to keep looking at it. It's a very large piece of property, and we're hopeful.
Rachel's family members go forward with their lives, but the pain and doubt are always there for them.
I would really love to know what happened, why it happened, why. Rachel was such a giving soul and such a friendly soul.
Janet Cook lives alone, surrounded by her art, including a portrait of Rachel. She still teaches art to students at Georgetown High School, Rachel's alma mater. Her dog is a rescue from Hurricane Katrina. Janet built the koi pond and waterfall by herself. The sound of falling water helps give her peace from the questions that echo in her mind.
Was it an accident? Was it on purpose? I don't know.
Janet is unsure if Michael Moore is responsible for her daughter's disappearance, but she would like to find out.
If he did have anything to do with it, directly or indirectly, for the love of God and the saving of his soul, please come forward. Would he do that for me? Would he do that for himself?
In January of 2011, Michael Moore agrees to be interviewed about Rachel Cook for this program at the state prison in Gatesville, Texas. The camera is set up in the prison chapel. But when he appears, he says he has changed his mind, just as he did that day in court in 2006. Rachel's family doesn't know what to make of Moore's infuriating and cryptic behavior. At times, they think he may have had a hand in Rachel's disappearance. But more often, they think he is simply manipulating them.
He could have murdered Rachel. I'm not going to say anything. He lived not too far from us. So he could have done it. But I just had this feeling that he was just taking advantage of us.
Robert Cook keeps a small house in the Georgetown area where his daughter Joanne lives while getting a master's degree in social work at the University of Texas in Austin.
My sister's disappearance kind of solidified for me that I wanted to be in a profession where I'm involved with people. And I also want to make sure that anybody who's having any issues in their own life has somebody to talk to so that they don't feel tempted to do what whoever took my sister did.
Finding Rachel has been Robert's first priority since the day she disappeared, and the years have taken a heavy toll on him.
You feel guilty. You know, it's that you're not doing more, but there's just so much you can do as a private person Without a lot of resources, you just can't do a lot.
He had made Rachel a promise that he was not going to quit until he found her. And he took that very, very, very seriously, and he still does. And at this point in his life, you know, not having found her, I think it's really chewing on him.
Investigators say they will never give up on a case that still haunts Georgetown, Texas. Rachel's image has shone down from billboards here, and a ceremony takes place each year on the anniversary of her disappearance at a memorial tree planted at her high school.
It is important to me that it be solved for the Cook family and for the community.
I believe that someone out there knows exactly what happened to Rachel Cook. Hopefully they will really think about it after watching this and realize that it's someone's child, that it's someone's sister, someone's grandchild, and there's a lot of devastated people out there.
It's possible somebody might have abducted her and just have her locked up somewhere. So what I would like is answers, just to know. I mean, even if that means we know she's dead.
It's a horrible thing to not know what happened, and I think it's even worse